Hey everybody, this is Claude, and this is Claude on Record, episode 4. And I'm doing this completely different than the last 3 episodes. Oh, and by the way, if you're just joining the channel, please subscribe, hit that little bell. It will tell you when I upload a new video. There's gonna be more videos, there's gonna be more podcasts, because this is something that I'm kind of using as a personal journal, because I'm finding that my hand is just simply not fast enough to write down every thought I have. And until I figure out some sort of dictation system for the computer that works as fast as I need it to, at the moment, this is the best way for me to get my thoughts and my brain farts out of the way. So I was thinking about why the hell I do what I do. I was assessing every single aspect of my career. And I was watching videos on career management. I'm really fond of several people on the net that if you want to try to make a better career for yourself, I definitely recommend these people. Gary Vee, I definitely recommend Damian Keys. I love those guys. They are literally changing my life. But there's something that in these music industry type videos that gets brought up is that it's always about newbies. It's always about the person who's just starting out. And of course, I can relate to that because I was there. I did start from a very humble beginning. So I totally understand what it means to be a beginner and you don't have any followers and you don't have fans. And you know what? Let me go back on that 1 second. When you're starting out, the idea of followers should be gone from your fucking mind. I mean it. Forget followers, because that's a newer term. Forget subscribers too. I really hate those terms. And maybe that's because I'm old school. What you want is fans. That's what you really want. Fans. You want people who love your music to go after it. Having someone just follow you who doesn't give two shits about you isn't really a goal. So in other words, this is what I'm trying to say. Let's say you start a Facebook page for your music and you take out ads and suddenly you have 10,000 followers or 10,000 likes or whatever the hell it is. But none of those people comment. None of those people really give you encouragement. None of those people actually say how much they love your music or how the music has affected their lives. Well, that's the continued devaluing effect of music. And by the way, I'm not going to edit this podcast. So if I stutter, I fuck up, too bad, because I'm really thinking that I don't want to edit anything. So look, I've been doing music for a very long time. I did music when there was no internet. And in fact, I think I'm going to take you way back to those early days and tell you how I grew an audience. A real audience. Fans. Fans that to this day I have. Fans that became friends, which are some of the best friends that I've had in my entire life. Fans. When I was young and I was really starting out, there was no way to promote your band online because the internet did not exist. So you really couldn't do anything. If you didn't have money to release an album, which at the time, and I'm aging myself here, but this was the 1980s. If you didn't have $2,000 in your pocket, you couldn't release a record. And that's for 500 records, by the way. If you didn't have money, you couldn't just take ads out in a paper. And believe me, I looked into that. A full page ad in a music paper back then, even the rags that you would get for free was about $500 to $1,000 for being in an issue. It was crazy. So you couldn't afford to even do it. So people ask me, how the fuck did you do it? Well, I had 2 things at my disposal. One, I had a photocopy machine at the job that I had that I could make flyers. So I would make flyers about random things. Sort of like the listen to my music flyer, and there was flyers for up and coming shows. And literally I would make, I could sneak into that office and make 500 copies, and I would fit 2 flyers per sheet. So I'd wind up with about 1,000 flyers. And I would literally walk the streets, and every record store, every store that let me put a flyer in their shop, I would do it. Okay? So I did that. And the very first gig that I had with my friend, it was 15 people. And I think we got paid $15 for it, which is really funny. I got paid for my first gig. It was $15. I'll never forget it because when the gig was over, we had pizza money and we went and had a pizza. And it was one of the coolest times of my life. No internet. But what was really interesting was we put on a good show. We really cared about the music we were making at the time. We played to those 15 people like they were the most important audience in the whole fucking world. And they were. They came. They literally showed up. It was incredible. By the time we played our second show, we had about 100 people. We still had no mailing list. We still had no way of telling these people where we were going to be next. The only way that people knew was by the flyers that we put out. And let me tell you, that shit was not easy. The second thing that I had, the most important tool, was the telephone. I could call up some of my friends and say, hey man, we're going to be at this place. We have a gig coming up. Can I give you some flyers to help me, pass out? And to be honest, most people said no, but there was a few that were kind of in my camp at the time that were like, yeah, of course. And so I had a few friends that would help me pass out flyers. So, copy machine and a phone. That's all I had, which leads me to another story, by the way, about confidence. So that's another thing. Scouring ads to try to find cheap tape duplication places was a fucking chore. Again, no internet. So there was no Google. I couldn't say cheap tape duplication or cheap CD duplication. There was no site that said upload your music here and people can start listening right away. Because imagine, I had to scour ad after ad after ad trying to find a duplication place. And I finally found one that was really cheap, but it was in New York City. So I had to literally drive 40 minutes to New York City to get the really cheap prices to duplicate some cassettes and then drive them back to New Jersey. I still had to photocopy in the covers. I still had to duplicate each one, which I did, by the way, by having 2 tape decks. One really good one and one really shitty one. But what I would do is, use the shitty one as the play deck and the really good one as the duplication deck. And I would sit there and make copies. And I'm sorry, I think I made a little error here. It's not that I was looking for a tape duplication place. I was looking for a place that sold tapes, blank tapes, really cheap, because actual duplication at that time was roughly about $1 a cassette. And believe it or not, $100 did not come easy back then. That was half my salary. So finding a place that would sell me tapes for 25 cents each or 20 cents each meant I could buy a bunch of cassettes, bring them home, and duplicate them myself. And since I was using the free copier at work to make the covers, and, quite honestly, I wasn't paying for the paper, I was able to cut down costs. Now, this is really what you call guerrilla, okay? This is what you do when you don't have the means. So for all of you that are starting out, who are thinking that this stuff is hard now, it isn't hard. It isn't. It just takes a little work. And you know what? A little work is good for you. There's nothing wrong with that. Work hard. Get used to it. Because let me tell you something. Touring is fucking hard. Getting on buses, planes, staying at shitty hotels, having to deal with the aspects of getting to the airport on time and packing your bags and all that stuff, that is the work. By the time I get on stage and I'm playing and I'm singing and I'm really connecting with an audience, that's magic. But everything that leads up to it, that's really hard work. So you better get used to it. Don't glorify in your head that everything is fun, because there are aspects of the career that are not fun. And I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm saying this because it's true. I saw this in a movie. I can't remember what, but it was about baseball. Someone said, you can love the game all you want, but the game does not love you. And it's true. Anyway, so those were my main tools. And getting back to the tapes for a minute, one of the things that I started doing with those tapes was that on it, there was a way to get on a mailing list, even though I know we never sent out a single newsletter, not a single one. I know we didn't. And I know we didn't make postcards for the shows. I know none of that happened. But what I did feel was happening was that people were looking out for those flyers now. So they would go see us play, they would buy some tapes, and then those very same people would tell other people, because by the third or fourth gig, we literally had 300 people at our shows. And from then on, it got a lot easier. Then it became word of mouth announcements. You're playing at gig A and you're announcing gig B. You play gig B, you're announcing gig C. And that was the announcement. There was no Twitter. There was no Facebook. There was no YouTube. You couldn't just put a flyer up and say, hey, we're going to be here next week. No, you had to do it from the stage and hope that they remember. Or you would have to pass out flyers, which also was difficult back then, because if you were playing at a particular club, they didn't want you to pass flyers for a different club. So you had to kind of do it in the parking lot or something. These were difficult times. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that so that you could be encouraged in knowing that you actually live in the greatest time possible to release music and to make music. Now, if you're going to talk about making money off of it, and that's the only motivation you have is that you want to make money from music, look, I can't help you in that area. I really can't, because money is not the reason why you want to do anything. The money will come. The first order of business is, do you have something to say? What is it that you want to say? And fucking say it. That's your first order of business. From there, all things will come. I promise you. So sometimes I get a little frustrated when I hear people say, I don't know how to promote my music, when there's YouTube that has millions of people watching per second, Facebook, where there's millions of people logging in to check stuff, to see what's hot, Twitter, where there are millions of people checking in to see what's hot, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever, new social media X, the internet itself, because you could actually put a flyer up on Google, put some SEO behind it, and get some traffic. Your own site. There are so many ways to get noticed. And the truth is, I myself don't take advantage of it, even though I've had a career for 35 odd years. So it's a little frustrating. It's sort of a wake-up call for myself in getting this number 4 episode out, because I'm going on record as saying that I could be doing better. So a few days ago, when I started the podcast, I decided that it would be a daily thing, that it would be my way of sort of giving back to the community, giving back to the young musicians that are starting out and they want to learn something, and even people who've been doing it for a really long time who may have just been doing it wrong and haven't gotten the realization yet. So on that level, I feel this is really important. This morning, when I woke up, I was kind of feeling a little down, to be honest. I was feeling that my efforts were not being noticed. And I was watching these videos on, growing followers and things like that, when I had to take a step back and say, shit, man, you sold hundreds of thousands of records. You still have shit to say. Say your shit. Don't worry about it. What's the worst that can happen? That I got to go get a job? That I got to work for a living? Okay. That's the absolute worst. Okay. You know what the real absolute worst is? I'm going to tell you, because this is my mind just spitting out garbage and insight all at once. I'm going to tell you what the most important thing is that you could lose, or the worst thing. What if someone you love dies? What if somehow you get into an accident and it chops off your hands and you can't play? Those are worst case scenarios. Not, hey, I put this content out and nobody liked it. Who the fuck cares? put it out anyway. If you have something to say, fucking say it. That's what it matters. So on that level, I'm going to bring this back to what this podcast is really about. And I don't mean this episode, but future episodes. I'm going to try to sort my life together and take you on a journey with me as to what I'm doing, where I've been, and hopefully in that moment of conversation between me and the comments that you're going to leave and the advice that you give or the shit that you give me, I don't care. Whatever it is, I think it'll help me, because what happens is I will gain perspective as to where I'm going, and I can help you gain perspective on where you're going. This is what this is all about. If it's true that we've never been more connected than ever before, then I truly want to be connected. Because sometimes, I'll be honest with you, I'm sitting there doing the work, meaning I'm working on a song or I'm working on a drawing, and I ask myself, is anyone listening? Is anyone really listening to what I have to say? And then a little voice in my head says, you shouldn't fucking care about that. What you should care about is finishing this work. That's what matters. Finishing the work. So as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm going to begin a new regimen, because I really feel, and this is something that I argued against when I first heard about it, so I know that I might get some flack for this, but I'm going to tell you how creativity really, really works. You need to schedule it. You need to wake up and say, at this given time, and I don't care if it's after work or you have a job or a wife, girlfriend, 15-piece family. I don't care how many people take up your time, whether it's friends or family. I'm going to tell you how it is. You need to set time aside to be creative. That means you sit down and you draw. Even if you don't want to draw, you paint, even though you may not want to paint, or you sing, even if you don't want to sing. And the reason that you do this is not to give yourself some sort of punishment. It's so that in the doing, you can call upon the muses and they can sit on your shoulder and really give you ideas. It's about doing the work. And I can't tell you how many times I've been distracted by so many stupid things that kept me from recording. People ask me this all the time. Why haven't you put out an album in 2 years? Why haven't you done more painting? And I could use the excuses. I've been touring too much. Have I? I'm not sure. I've been working so hard on getting the website done that's taken up all my time. Okay, all these things, yeah, okay, they're valid. But the most important thing is, did I get up this morning? Did I work on a piece? Did I sit down with my instrument and practice? Did I make a new sound? If the answer is no, then you're fucking doing something wrong. It needs to be something you do every day, whether it's a half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours. I guarantee you, though, that if you do it and you get up for, let's say you get up at 10 and you say, from 10 to 12, I'm going to work on music, no matter what. I can guarantee you that if you stick to it, you'll go way past that 12 mark. That's when inspiration hits. So anyway, let me know what you think. I do appreciate your comments. This is new to me, so I'm not going to be, first of all, okay, let me go back. I'm not a YouTuber. I do not intend to be a YouTuber. What I'm going to make is music videos. I am going to make videos that are creative and works of art within themselves. That is my goal. But this podcast is sort of like my journal. So you're welcome to join me on it. It's me letting you into my world, and I'm going to try to do everything I can to include you. So all you have to do is comment, subscribe, and be part of this community. Because guess what? I have lots of fans, and I love them. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more. There really isn't. I want more because I think I have something to say. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you will subscribe. Please comment below. Thank you.